of the Arts. We are very honored and proud to have the work of Philip Vaughan on the walls, a beautiful work. Before we introduce him formally and let him talk, which I'm excited to hear because he started with me and it's amazing stories, I just want to give you a little background, a little current status on LA Artcore. We are a nonprofit gallery that has served LA and its artists for 40 years. This gallery was started in 1979 by Lydia, and she was artistic director until recently when she passed. And we appreciate your support. Thank you for coming. A lot of people have asked me, is it going to continue? The answer is yes. LA Artcore is unique in Los Angeles in that its sole interest is to foster the careers of visual artists of diverse cultural backgrounds without consideration of costs. This is where you roll. Continuous calendar of exhibitions. We have 2 locations, Union Center of the Arts here and the Brewery Gallery. I know many of you know where that is, but it's a beautiful space too. Okay, where are we? This is my first talk. We also have we have international exchange programs. This is one of the great features of LA Artcore, and one of the great missions, again started by Lydia back in 1992 or something, where we partner with another country and we send artists over there and they send their artists here. So artists have a chance to immerse themselves in a country's culture, meet the people, see the art, and increase dialogue. And we do that with Japan, Korea, Thailand, and we're expanding these as we speak. As we travel to new countries, we build bridges with our artistic community, so hopefully this will expand even more, and it's a great feature of Artcore, and we're very proud of it. Our funding comes primarily from donations, so there are 2 things you can do to help us. That is support the artist, buy some work, or you can include Artcore in an annual giving plan. We very much appreciate it. I don't know how many of you are KUSC listeners or listener-supported radio. We are visually supported gallery. So, no, this is a crucial thing. We are here because of the artists and the supporters of the arts. And I think that about finishes that. I'm going to introduce Philip Vaughan. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I've made a few notes, and I'm just going to let him talk after this. Philip Vaughan, I know many of you know him, but I'm learning about this. I was also raised in England, so he's British. And he went to Brighton College, where he was influenced by one particular instructor called Gordon Taylor.
That's right.
And he just fell in love with color theory, right? And then you finished at Chelsea Art School. Mm-hmm. And in 1980, he sailed here, which is an amazing story. It's an amazing story. I'm not going to draw any parallels.
In the boat he built himself.
Well, this is a perfect. Philip, please, would you like to talk? Tell us about yourself. Thank you.
I just want to say a little thing about Lydia. Lydia gave me one of my first shows here in LA, and I think I showed here in sort of group shows a couple of times. And she was an amazing woman to, keep an organization like this going for 40 years in LA.
Right.
In probably some points where it wasn't terribly sort of supportive, the general environment. And she was working here right until 2 weeks ago.
That's right.
So it's amazing. We should all be that lucky to be still going at that age. 92, yeah. Amazing.
Yes,
anyhow, when Lydia asked me about 3 months ago if I would show here, I was a little uncertain whether I was going to show just these paintings, because I do a lot of drawing work and I do some sculpture work too. But with Pranay's help, we sort of sorted through things. Pranay is the gallery director now, and he sort of, there he is. He encouraged me to sort of stick to this one sort of painting group. And these are works that I've been working on for the last 3 or 4 years or so, with these 4 red ones over here and this one here, all in the last couple of months actually. So a lot of this stuff is quite, up to date in terms of when it was done. I first got interested in art. I originally was going to be a ship designer. That was my intention. My dad was a seaman, and when I went to Brighton College, it was an English boarding school, which in those days was a really ghastly place, I have to say. Very religious. Yeah. But there was one guy there who was an atheist, who was the head of the art department. This guy, Gordon Taylor. He was a really good teacher. And I was there, I was pretty lucky. I was there with David Nash, I don't know if you know the sculptor, English sculptor, and I'll think of his name now, but Henderson, who's now runs the Royal College of Drama down in Greenwich. Anyhow, so we had some interesting people that came out from Gordon Taylor's group, and he taught us all about art history. I mean, he gave a lecture every week on art history, history of architecture and history of painting and sculpture. And I sort of fell in love with it there, but I was still thinking about designing boats, and then he encouraged me to go off and do a course in architecture at Cambridge. But when I got there, I really loved painting, and I loved working with color. And so I sort of dropped out of architecture school, I went to Hornsey and then Chelsea. And at Chelsea I met a woman called Anne-Marie Smog, who was a really great color theory teacher. She really sort of got me excited about it. And at the time, I was interested not just in this kind of color, which is reflected color, but I was interested in incidental color, which is color made out of light rather than out of reflections of matter off of things. So I started working with projections and different kinds of projections and mixing of translucent colors, like gels that you use in theater, and eventually started working in neon, and then in animated neon, and I spent a whole lot of time doing that, until I came over here in 1980, and when I was sailing over, I thought, well, I should be doing something, while I'm on the boat, because it took 3 months. So I started doing paintings on the boat, but that's not that easy, because you set up the whole painting. It's really oil at the time. So you set up the thing, you got it all going, and then the wind changes, and the sails come over, the boat, everything falls over. But once I got here, I was in Florida, and I was trying to keep going with this light sculpture. I couldn't find anybody interested at all at that time, really. So I started painting, and I just kept going, and it sort of developed over time, but I had some trouble with the formality of it, how to approach painting. And the sort of eureka moment for me happened when I was in Amazonia with a friend of mine. I had a friend who was an anthropologist, and he asked me once, he was going back to see these hunter-gatherer Indians that I had befriended and studied, and he asked me if I would like to come there for 3 months, and as a photographer, just to be there, really. And I found that the experience of being in the jungle was probably one of the formative experiences of my life. I mean, the environment is just so amazing. To me, the closest equivalent is like being in a Gothic cathedral or something. It's that kind of awesome and sort of uplifting thing. Mind you, there's bugs and snakes, and there's also other negatives, to the experience. It's raining the whole time, but it's warm, and the people were amazing. But that's where I sort of I realized that you're living in in that environment, you're living in a bubble that's made out of just vertical stripes of things all the time. There's tree trunks and bushes, and then mixed in with that is this amazing sort of beams of light, because the light is, you're in the shade most of the time because the trees sort of cover everything, but there are little shafts of light coming down, so the colors that you see are illuminated against a sort of darker background, and they're really bright. I mean, there's this amazing sort of intensity to the experience. So that's where all this sort of repetitive stripiness sort of came from, you know. But so in a way, it's a freeing thing for me to work that way, to just not worry about the form of the thing, be able to just go ahead and work that way, and then get concerned with how the colors work together, because one of the things that I learned from sort of all that early color theory is that when you look at a color, you look at Joseph Albert's work, for instance, you put a red here, and then you put a green next to it, and the red changes completely. And so your perception of color is dependent on what's next to it, and what the context of it. And I love that thing about it. And I love the fact that you can work on a painting and you paint a certain series of colors, and then you introduce another color, and it changes the whole thing. You know, and so it becomes really an exciting, I mean, for the painter himself, it's a very exciting experience of watching the way things change. And when I was working in London, I had a really great studio right on the Thames. And Bridget Riley was working there, and Peter Sedgley, and there were these other really interesting painters. And Bridget Riley's work was something I really responded to, but I didn't like the sort of hardness of it. You know? I mean, I respected what she does. I mean, her work is still incredible, but I was attracted to the abstract expressionists and the looseness and the fierceness of their approach to painting. So in my work, although in some ways there is sort of a Bridget Riley sort of parallel there, but mine is a lot looser, you know. And at first I sort of struggled with that a bit, but I'm sort of comfortable with the fact that it's irregular and it's got mistakes in it, and it's got drips, and in fact I kind of like that the sort of life that gives it, you know.
Absolutely. And there's the top button.
What's that?
Then there's the top button a little.
Oh,
you know the drips.
oh yeah, yes, yeah, it is. It's sorry.
That's good. Accessible. Yeah, that's accessible. Very good.
The other thing that I personally like to do is I like to work to music, and I like if you have a music playing in the background while you're painting, the way the sort of rhythm of the music allows you to then sort of work almost like dance to that rhythm and the sort of mood that the music creates. And I've always been interested in the parallels between painting and color and music. In fact, I wrote my thesis when I was at art school about color music, which was this whole group of people who strove to find a parallel, a literal parallel between music. And in fact, one of the people I was writing about was a guy called Cornwall Klein, who was actually German, but he had an anglicized name. And he had made a whole organ, there was a color organ, that he would play in the theaters. This is before World War II. I think maybe not before World War I, actually. And they would project these images onto the curtains of the theater, and you'd have an organist playing Bach or something, and then he would be playing his color that would go alongside it. So this is sort of synesthesia. Like this is an early attempt, and incredibly complicated. I mean, really powerful arc projectors with prisms to make the color, because all the gels would just melt right in the heat of this projector. I mean, really advanced kind of technology, you know. And I worked at Disney, later on at Disney Imagineering. A lot of those people were doing similar things, but 50 years later. So I was always really interested in that. And so I've had a parallel world of sort of working in that what called incidental colour and this reflected colour. And to me, those are, they're equally interesting sort of worlds.
Excellent talk.
Yes.